Hello, today I will be painting Ronan from the board game Marvel United. So the robe is painted in Xereus Purple. This is a layer paint by Citadel. I put a heavy coat on the model and I attempt to avoid the trim sections that will be painted in a roughly 50-50 mix of Warlock Purple and Matte White. Now the purple is a dark paint, so it'll take a couple of coats to fix any mistakes. I'm trying to avoid all of the areas that will be pink or some other color. I am, however, using a large rigger 0 brush to apply the purple more quickly. Here I'm trying to avoid the diamond-ish shaped areas that will be in the highlight color pink, or the trim color pink, that is. The Warlock Purple white mix makes a light pink color. I personally lack a good pink, so I made this mixture. If you have a good pink, then that will probably work better than this. If not, this is how you get this pink. Again, roughly 50-50 mixture to get this pink. I mixed it on a wet palette, so it's going to take a couple coats for me to use all of this, at least to cover it properly. Now, if you notice, though, the raised areas are getting all the pink, be it the trim around the robe or the diamondish shapes underneath his arms. For the metal armor parts of the model, I've used a mixture of Xereus Purple with gunmetal to give it a metallic sheen to it. It darkens it up a little bit, or you could say brightens it up, I don't know. But it gives it a little bit of a metallic sheen. I use it on the helmets. There's some metal on his arms, and there's actually a couple that are on his feet that I do later. Now I'm applying the pink mixture, same pink mixture for the trim, in the areas around this metal. I did it afterwards because it's the lighter of the two. It's a little easier to put on after you put on the darker color. Alright, for the skin I use a mixture of Voidshield Blue and the Fang. The Fang is a base color, and thus it's very thick, so I combined them on a wet palette to water the mix up and thin it out a little bit. So parts of the face get this mixture. I avoid where he gets purple later on, and his hands get the mixture as well. Now, for his purple face markings, as well as the area around his eyes, I use Naggaroth Night. This is a dark purple, and it's not the same purple. It's a little brighter, in fact, than the Xereus Purple that's over the rest of the model. He's got these rectangular boxes that have the purple as well. That's up by his eyes. Now, for the weapon, I start off using gunmetal. I use that on the handle of the weapon. For the recessed areas on the hammerhead, I used a lighter mixture of the pink that I used for the trim. So I lightened up that mixture with a bit more white until I got almost a very light, bright pink. Now, for the hammerhead itself, other than the recessed areas, I did this in plate mail metal. It's very shiny, bright metal, and gives the hammer a nice bright look to it. This is raised pretty far up over the recessed areas and very easy to not paint over the pink. You can see from different angles, it's very shiny. Okay, so the clothes that he had underneath the robe, I painted these in Fenrisian gray. This is a light bluish gray color. Style of the paint is for an airbrush, so I didn't need to thin it out at all on the wet palette. I just took it straight from the pot. And the areas that I painted are the legs, pants or whatever for his legs, as well as the cloth parts that are around the armor on his arms. If you miss with this, it's not bad. The purple mixture of purple and gunmetal is going over these, the tops of his feet there, the tops of his boots. And the boots themselves I used in this Karak stone. It's also an airbrush style paint from Citadel, so it took a couple coats. It goes on nice and thin and gives a smooth look. Okay, for the eyes, I painted in these two colors separately. I started off painting them in pure red, so I did a circle of pure red. And before it was able to dry, I swirled in Daemonic yellow. So here's the yellow going in. I would put a little dot here and there, maybe move some around. I tried to look for a menacing look, and hopefully I did it here, kind of giving it an out-of-the-worldly look. All right, now for the base. I start by painting the ring of the base with Evil Sunz Scarlet. This is an airbrush paint from Citadel. It requires a few coats, and it is the base model color that I'm using, or at least the color that I'm painting all of the villains with on the ring to distinguish them from the heroic players. Next, I cover the base with Warplock bronze. At least most of it I do. I do the area he's standing on and a little bit of the rocks around him as well, or not the rocks themselves, but what would be the ground around the rocks. I then cover it with pure red. I don't cover the recessed parts where the bronze will be. but I use the red. It gives it a bit of a metallic-y look, darker metallic, not using the shinier plate mail metal or something like that. Next, I wanted to highlight some of the rocks in front, and I do that with Astorath Red. It's a dry paint, but I'm applying for the color, so I actually put it onto the wet palette first. And here is the Astorath Red application. I got the big rocks in front as well as a couple of the small ones. Well, here is Ronan fully painted before using a protective clear matte spray on the miniature. And here he is after the spray. Looks a little shinier. Hope that you've enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching me paint Ronan of the Marvel United board game from Guardians of the Galaxy Remix box.